On our wedding day, my groom Ethan pulled me into a corner and coldly informed me, "We will only be husband and wife in name for 6 months, then we'll divorce." Years of affection instantly crumbled. He confessed that he had long had a true love, Chloe, and marrying me was to fulfill his twisted love. I fell from the cloud of happiness into hell. This marriage was a carefully planned deception and betrayal from the start. Sacred music echoed in the church, and sunlight streamed through the stained glass, casting colorful halos on my pure white wedding dress. The smiling faces and blessings of family and friends rose and fell, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of champagne and roses. I held my bouquet, looked at Ethan standing in front of the priest in a smart suit, and my heart was filled with immense happiness. We've known each other for 10 years. From our youthful days on campus to entering society, he is the pride of heaven in everyone's eyes, the heir to the Sterling Group, handsome and steady, and I, Ava, a designer from an ordinary family, was envied by countless people for being able to marry him. I myself felt like I had won the lottery of fate. The priest's solemn inquiry sounded, "Mr. Ethan, do you take Miss Ava to be your wife, regardless of?" "I do." Ethan's voice was clear and firm. As always, it was my turn. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the excitement that was about to jump out of my throat, and was about to speak. "Wait," Ethan suddenly interrupted. The music stopped abruptly, and everyone's eyes instantly focused on him. The priest was also stunned. Ethan turned his head and gave me a reassuring, but completely devoid of warmth, smile. "Ava, can I talk to you for a moment?" My heart sank suddenly, and a bad feeling spread quickly. In this situation, what couldn't wait until after the ceremony to talk about? He didn't give me a chance to refuse, gently took my wrist, and led me to a small prayer room on the side of the church. The heavy wooden door blocked the outside view and sound, leaving only the two of us. "Ethan, what's wrong?" I tried to appear calm, but my fingertips were icy. He let go of my hand. The smile on his face disappeared, replaced by a seriousness I had never seen before, even with a hint of indifference. "Ava," he looked into my eyes, each word clear, "we'll be husband and wife in name only for 6 months, and after 6 months, we'll get divorced." Buzz. My brain went blank, as if hit hard by a sledgehammer. I suspected I had misheard, or this was just a bad joke he was playing. "What did you say?" My voice was trembling. "Ethan, today is our wedding. I'm very sorry to tell you this today, but I have to make it clear." His tone was frighteningly calm. "For the next 6 months, we need to play the role of a loving couple in front of both our parents and the outside world. After 6 months, I will give you enough compensation, and then we will part peacefully." Why? Tears welled up uncontrollably, blurring my vision. 10 years of our relationship. Why do you treat me like this? What exactly happened? Ethan looked away, gazing at the crucifix hanging on the wall, his voice low. "Because I've fallen in love with someone else." Fallen in love with someone else. These 5 words were like a poisoned dagger, piercing my heart with precision. I staggered back a step, barely steadying myself by grabbing onto the cold wall. "Who is it?" I asked through gritted teeth, each word feeling forced from my throat. "Chloe." He uttered a strange name. "She and I are true love. Ava, what I feel for you is more like family, friendship, not love." Friendship? 10 years of companionship, countless days and nights of mutual support, and now he tells me it's just friendship? I was such a fool, living in the warm illusion he wove. "Then why did you agree to marry me?" I almost screamed. "Why give me hope, only to shatter it with your own hands? You know how much I was looking forward to this wedding. How much I love you." He was silent. That familiar silence he always used when he didn't want to answer a question. After a long time, he looked at me again, with a hint of subtle guilt in his eyes, but more of a relieved determination. "Ava, marriage is also for my love." I was stunned, unable to understand the logic of his words. For love? For his love with Chloe, so he had to marry me first? What absurd theory is this? I don't understand. You don't need to understand. He interrupted me, his tone returning to that of a cold business negotiation. "You just need to know that we must complete this wedding and maintain the marriage for 6 months. This is good for both of our families, especially my father, whose health is not good and cannot be subjected to shocks. After 6 months, I will take care of everything and give you compensation sufficient for you to live the rest of your life without worry, property, cash, or shares of Sterling Group, whichever you choose." Compensation? Does he think money can make up for all of this? Make up for my broken heart, my trampled dignity, And these 10 years of misplaced youth? I looked at the man in front of me, familiar yet unfamiliar. His handsome face showed no emotion, only rationality and calculation. At this moment, I clearly realized that the man I had loved for 10 years was a complete scoundrel, a selfish, cold-blooded liar who would stop at nothing to achieve his goals. My heart felt completely hollowed out, leaving only a numb ache. My tears had already dried, and I raised my hand to wipe away the wet streaks on my face, my voice so calm that even I was surprised. Okay, I agree. Ethan seemed a little surprised by my straightforwardness, but he quickly returned to normal. What conditions do you have? First, for these 6 months, we will be husband and wife in the eyes of the law, but privately, we will keep to ourselves. You can't interfere with my life, and I won't interfere with your true love. Second, when we divorce, in addition to the compensation you promised, I also want the apartment we live in now. We chose and furnished it together, and I want it. Third, I paused, met his gaze, and said, word by word, never appear in front of me again, and never mention that ridiculous /friendship/ again. He nodded. Okay, now, go out and finish this farce, Mr. Ethan. I forced a smile that was worse than crying. Don't keep your parents and my parents waiting. He looked at me deeply, then turned and opened the door. The noise outside instantly poured in, as if from another world. I straightened the hem of my wedding dress, took a deep breath, and followed him back to the wedding scene that had become a huge mockery to me. The priest, probably told that the bride was just a little nervous before the wedding, cleared his throat and continued the unfinished ceremony. When he said, "Do you take?" I looked at Ethan's hypocritical face and clearly uttered 3 words, "I do." The voice was not loud, but it exhausted all my strength. Rings exchanged, vows kissed. When his cold lips touched mine, I only felt disgusted. The applause from the audience was thunderous. My parents were beaming with relief, and Ethan's parents nodded in satisfaction. No one knew the scandalous deal and lies behind this grand wedding. I became Ethan's wife in name only, a contract wife for 6 months, who could be discarded at any time. The married life was as I had imagined, and yet not as I had imagined. As expected, Ethan and I became complete strangers who were once very familiar. We lived in the high-rise apartment in the city center that we had once chosen together, but strictly adhered to the live and let live agreement. He usually came home very late, or simply didn't come home at all. Even if we occasionally met, we only nodded in acknowledgement, stingy even with eye contact. In the huge house, it was often just me alone, the air so quiet that I could hear my own heartbeat, empty and cold. The difference is, I originally thought I would be stuck in pain and resentment, but the reality is, after the initial few days of hysteria and weeping, I quickly calmed down. Maybe Ethan's coldness completely broke my heart, or maybe my innate resilience wouldn't allow me to continue to be decadent. I started putting my energy into my work. I work as a lead designer at an architectural design company called Innovatech Solutions. The work is very busy, which is perfect for filling the void in my life. I started to take the initiative to work overtime, taking on more complex projects, trying to numb myself with high-intensity work. My mother would occasionally call, indirectly asking how my and Ethan's newly married life was going. I always glossed over it, saying Ethan was busy with work and we were both fine. My mother seemed to sense something was wrong, but couldn't quite put her finger on it, just reminding me to care more about Ethan and that couples should be considerate of each other. After hanging up the phone, I would often stare out the window in a daze. My desk faces the floor-to-ceiling windows, and across from it is also an imposing office building. Sometimes, I would see a blurry figure in a certain window opposite me. I really started noticing him one night when I was working late. That day, I was rushing to finish an urgent design draft and was completely overwhelmed. To keep myself awake, I put on a silly owl plush sleeping cap that I had bought with a friend when we were fooling around. The brim was so large that it almost covered half of my face. As I rubbed my eyes and unconsciously looked across at the building opposite, I suddenly noticed that the familiar window was lit up, and a man was standing by the window, also seemingly working late. He seems to be smiling. The distance was too far, and I couldn't see his expression clearly, but I could feel that he seemed amused by something. I subconsciously touched the owl hat on my head, and my cheeks felt a little hot. Could it be? Is he laughing at me? I quickly took off the hat, awkwardly shrank back, and pretended to continue looking at the computer screen. From that day on, I began to pay attention to the window across the way. intentionally or unintentionally. He also seemed to work late often. Sometimes I could see him on the phone, sometimes looking at documents, and sometimes, like me, standing by the window, watching the traffic outside. We were like two lonely city silhouettes separated by a glass curtain wall. This strange neighbor relationship didn't last long before it was broken by another annoying thing. That day, near the end of work, I received a call from Ethan. His voice was as calm as ever, even with a bit of impatience. "Mom wants us to go back to the old house for dinner tonight. I'll wait for you downstairs at your company." Going back to the old house for dinner meant having to play the loving couple again. I felt a burst of annoyance in my heart and directly refused. "I'm working overtime tonight. The project is very urgent, so I can't go back. You can apologize to Mom for me." "Overtime?" Ethan's tone was skeptical. "Ava, don't forget our agreement." "In front of the elders." "Agreement?" I sneered, interrupting him. "The agreement didn't say I had to sacrifice my job to cooperate with your performance." "Ethan, I'm not your accessory. I have my own life and career. You can handle the dinner yourself. I believe with your acting skills, it won't be a problem." After saying that, I hung up the phone crisply and set my phone to silent. I knew Ethan must still be waiting downstairs. His possessiveness and stubbornness wouldn't allow his plans to be disrupted. Sure enough, half an hour later, a colleague told me when they left work that Ethan's car was still parked at the company entrance. I packed my things and dawdled for a while, thinking of waiting for him to lose patience and leave. However, when I braced myself and walked out of the company gate, I immediately saw Ethan leaning against the car door with a gloomy face. He saw me, immediately walked up to me, and said in a bad tone, "Ava, what do you mean?" "My meaning is very clear. I'm going to work overtime tonight." I tried to make my tone sound calm, but the fingers holding the bag strap tightened involuntarily. "Get in the car, don't make my mom wait." He reached out to grab my arm. I subconsciously took a step back, avoiding his touch. "Ethan, I told you I'm not going." Just when we were at a standstill, a gentle male voice suddenly interjected, "Sir, Ava seems to have made it clear that she doesn't want to go with you." I turned my head in surprise and saw a well-built man in a casual suit standing next to me. He had a smile on his face, but his eyes were sharp as he looked at Ethan. "It's him, the man in the window of the office building across the street." Ethan clearly didn't expect anyone to interfere, and frowned as he sized up the other man. "Who are you?" "This is our family matter." "Housework?" The man raised an eyebrow, his tone laced with a hint of mockery. "As far as I know, forcing a lady to do something she doesn't want to do isn't exactly honorable housework." And, he turned sideways, leaned closer to me, and said in a voice only the three of us could hear, "Ava probably wants to go to dinner with me more right now." Ethan's face instantly turned extremely unpleasant. He looked at me, his eyes full of inquiry and a hint of almost imperceptible jealousy. Ava, who is he? Before I could answer, the man took the initiative, extending his arm and gently putting it around my shoulders in a protective gesture, smiling at Ethan. "Who I am is not important. What is important is that Ava has a date tonight. Mr. Ethan, please go back." His arm carried a warm sensation that came through the thin fabric, making my heart skip a beat for no reason. I subconsciously looked up at him, and he winked at me, his eyes filled with reassurance and a little bit of slyness. Ethan stared intently at the hand on my shoulder, his face ashen. He seemed to want to say something, but in the end, he just snorted coldly, turned around, and strode towards his car. The engine roared as he sped away. It wasn't until the black Bentley disappeared around the corner that the man released his arm and took a step back, maintaining a polite distance. "Thank you," I said, composing myself, feeling a little awkward. "It was no trouble at all." He smiled, revealing two white teeth. "It seems your family affairs are a bit complicated." "I've made a fool of myself," I said, lowering my head, feeling embarrassed. "It's okay," he said lightly, "but in order to completely give up on that gentleman of yours, perhaps we could really have a meal together? Just consider it you thanking me for getting you out of that situation." I hesitated for a moment, but looking at his sincere smile, and thinking about how he stood up for me just now, the words of refusal reached my lips, but I swallowed them back. Okay, my name is Noah," he said, extending his hand with a gentle smile. "Noah Miller." I hesitated for a moment, but still reached out and shook his hand. "Ava Chen." His palm was warm and dry, with a reassuring strength. "Nice to meet you, Ava." Noah released my hand. I know a good Italian restaurant nearby. The environment is quiet and suitable for chatting. I originally wanted to refuse. After all, having dinner with a strange man I just met, especially after just getting rid of Ethan, seemed a bit hasty, but looking at Noah's frank eyes, and the way he had just helped me out without hesitation, I couldn't bring myself to refuse. Besides, I really needed a breathing space, instead of immediately returning to that cold home. Okay. The restaurant had soft lighting, and soothing jazz music flowed through the air. Noah was talkative, but not in an annoying way. He talked about his job as a project director at a tech company in the building across the street, and how he often had to work overtime. He skillfully avoided the topic of the obviously unusual relationship between Ethan and me, and simply shared some interesting work anecdotes and observations about the city. I gradually relaxed and found it comfortable to chat with him. He had a unique charm, with the confidence of a successful person, yet he was also humorous and considerate. He would notice which dish I liked and subtly help me move the plate a little closer. The jokes he told were just right, relieving some of the tension from my day. This meal was the most comfortable I'd had since getting married. When saying goodbye, Noah simply dropped me off downstairs at the apartment building without lingering too much, only saying, "I hope we have the opportunity to have dinner together again." Ava, thank you for the dinner, Noah. I nodded, watching his back as he turned to leave, a strange feeling quietly growing in my heart. In the following days, life seemed to return to normal. Ethan didn't bother me anymore, probably stimulated by Noah's words. Ava might prefer to have dinner with me now, or perhaps he was just too lazy to waste any more time on me. Beneath the calm, however, there were undercurrents. Monday morning, as soon as I arrived at the office, I saw a bouquet of vibrant pink roses on my desk, exquisitely packaged, with dewdrops still on the petals. There was no signature on the card. Wow, Ava, who sent them? How romantic. Lisa, my colleague next to me, came over, her face full of gossip. It must be President Ethan, right? Newlyweds are just different. Another colleague guessed. Ethan? I sneered inwardly. Would he send me flowers? Not until the sun rises in the west. Given his personality, even if he were putting on an act, he would only do things that align with his efficient principles, like making a direct transfer instead of engaging in such romantic little tricks. I don't know who sent it. Maybe it was sent to the wrong person. I casually replied, picking up the bouquet. I'll take it to the front desk and see if it belongs to another company. I placed the flowers at the company's front desk and asked the receptionist to keep an eye out for the owner. However, no one came to claim them. The next day, another bouquet of identical pink roses appeared on my desk right on time, still without a signature. My colleagues' eyes were even more ambiguous, and all kinds of guesses were rampant. Some people even started a small betting pool, betting on who the flower sender was. It's definitely CEO Ethan, playing hard to get. I don't think so. CEO Ethan is so busy. How could he have time to do this every day? Could it be a new admirer? I was so bothered by their chatter that I sent the flowers to the front desk again, but a vague guess was forming in my mind. Could it be Noah? But we've only met once and had one meal together. On the third day, the pink roses arrived as scheduled. This time, the receptionist directly brought the flowers over, winking at me. Sister Ava, this time it shouldn't be a mistake, right? I saw your name and our company address on the delivery slip. I looked at the beautiful bouquet of flowers, my heart filled with mixed feelings. If it's Noah, what does he mean by this? I was lost in thought, gazing at the roses, when my phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello, Ava, it's me, Noah. A gentle male voice came from the other end of the line. Noah? I was a little surprised. Are you off work? I'm downstairs at your company. My heart inexplicably sped up a bit. Is something the matter? I have something I want to tell you in person. His tone carried a hint of a smile. I hesitated for a moment, but agreed anyway. I packed up my things and went downstairs, and sure enough, I saw Noah leaning against his silver-gray Tesla, holding a pink rose in his hand. He saw me, flashed a bright smile, walked up to me, and handed me the rose. I hope you like it. I didn't take it, just looked at him and asked, have you been the one sending flowers these past few days? Yes, he readily admitted. Sorry for not signing. I just wanted to give you a little surprise. Why? I didn't quite understand. We've known each other for a long time. Ava, Noah interrupted me, his eyes deepening. Much longer than you think. I was stunned. What do you mean? Noah stepped forward, his eyes on my face, a smile playing on his lips. Remember? Many years ago, by the carousel in Central Park, a little boy snatched your cotton candy, and you cried so sadly. Another little boy in blue overalls helped you get it back and clumsily comforted you, saying he would buy you many, many cotton candies in the future. Some vague fragments flashed through my mind instantly. Childhood, park, carousel, sweet cotton candy, and a vague little boy's face. That little boy. Noah's voice carried a hint of reminiscence. He also said that when you smile, your eyes are curved like the moon in the sky. My heart felt like it was gently bumped by something, and fragments of memories gradually became clearer. I remembered that shy little boy with rosy cheeks, that playmate who helped me win back the cotton candy and vowed to marry me when he grew up. Are you, Nono? I tentatively called out that nickname that only the two of us knew. Noah's smile became even brighter. It seems you haven't completely forgotten me, Ava. I looked at him in shock, never imagining that the mature and steady man before me was actually that blurry figure from my childhood memories. What a small world. I've been looking for you for a long time. Noah's eyes became gentle and focused. That day I saw you by the window, wearing that, very unique owl hat. I thought it looked a lot like you, but I wasn't sure, until I saw you downstairs that day and heard your name. I was sure it was really you. So he wasn't laughing at me that day, but identifying me? My cheeks felt a little hot. Those roses. I looked at the one in his hand. The language of pink roses is first love and special care. Noah gazed into my eyes, his tone serious. Ava, maybe you think this is sudden, but since I was very young, he paused, as if considering his words, I've felt that you are special. That promise to marry you when we grow up has never been a joke to me. My heart was beating faster, as if it wanted to jump out of my throat. A childhood promise, brought up again in an adult reunion, carried a strange sense of destiny. I admit that Noah's appearance was like a light, illuminating my originally gray life. His gentleness, his consideration, and the undisguised affection in his eyes made me feel a little overwhelmed, yet irresistibly drawn to him. Noah, that was just a childhood joke. I tried to lighten the mood, but my voice was a little unsteady. It wasn't to me. Noah's gaze remained persistent. Ava, I know you may be going through some unhappy things right now. He paused meaningfully. I won't force you to accept me immediately, but I hope you can give me a chance to get to know me again, and also for me to re-enter your life. His sincerity and directness made it impossible for me to refuse. I looked at the rose in his hand, remained silent for a few seconds, and finally reached out and took it. The petals felt soft and delicate, with a faint fragrance. Noah smiled, the light in his eyes brighter than the stars in the night sky. From that day on, Noah began to formally, gently, but with an undeniable determination, to intervene in my life. He no longer sent flowers anonymously, but personally delivered a different colored rose every day, sometimes a red one representing passion, sometimes a white one symbolizing purity, but more often, it was the original pink. He would calculate my time to get off work and appear downstairs at the company, sometimes just to take me home, sometimes to suggest having dinner together, or to see a newly released movie. He had a good sense of propriety and never pried too much into my private affairs, especially about Ethan. He just quietly accompanied me, using his way to dispel the gloom around me. Being with him, I felt a long-lost sense of ease and happiness. The pain brought by Ethan seemed to be smoothed away bit by bit under Noah's sunny smile and thoughtful care. Our relationship gradually drew closer in a tacit understanding. It was a weekend, and Noah asked me to go to the Westfield shopping center in the city center with him, saying that his sister's birthday was coming up and he wanted me to help him pick out a gift. I gladly agreed. Being able to do something for him made me feel good. The mall was bustling with people, and the display windows of various brands were dazzling. Noah patiently accompanied my family and me as we browsed through each store, listening to my opinions. His sister was a lively and cheerful girl, and I suggested he choose a necklace that was simple in design yet full of vitality. Just as we were standing in front of a jewelry store counter, carefully selecting styles, a familiar and jarring voice rang out not far away. /Honey, what do you think of this bag? Doesn't it go well with my outfit today? My body stiffened, and I subconsciously looked in the direction of the voice. I saw Ethan standing in front of a luxury store, affectionately holding a hot, fashionable young woman. That woman was probably Chloe, the true love he mentioned. She leaned on Ethan's arm with a sweet smile, holding the latest designer bag in her hand, her face full of undisguised pride and showiness. Ethan had a doting smile on his face that I had never seen before, whispering something in her ear, making her giggle. The two of them interacted sweetly, oblivious to the world around them, completely unaware of me nearby. At that moment, I thought I would feel heartache, anger, and embarrassment, but unexpectedly, my heart was calm, even numb. Watching this glaring scene in front of me was like watching a farce that had nothing to do with me. It turns out that when the heart is dead, you can really be calm. Ava? Noah noticed my strangeness, followed my gaze, and frowned almost imperceptibly. He didn't ask any questions, but subtly turned sideways to block my view. Let's go over there and take a look. That company's designs seem a bit more youthful. He naturally changed the subject, gently taking my arm and guiding me in another direction. I glanced at him gratefully and obediently followed him away. However, fate always seems to enjoy playing tricks. Just as we turned to leave, about to move out of Ethan's line of sight, Ethan seemed to sense something, looked up, and his eyes met mine. His smile froze on his face, and his expression instantly became complex, with surprise, bewilderment, and a hint of barely perceptible panic. Chloe, who was next to him, also noticed my presence and raised her chin provocatively, clinging even closer to Ethan. I didn't stop, didn't even give them an extra glance, just calmly walked past them. Just as we were about to pass by, Noah suddenly stopped. He pulled me along, turned to face Ethan and Chloe, with a polite but distant smile on his face. Mr. Ethan, what a coincidence. Noah's tone was calm, but there was a subtle sharpness in his eyes. Ethan's face was a little unsightly, forcing a smile. Yes, what a coincidence. Ava, who is this? Before I could even speak, Noah had already stepped forward, pulling me closer behind him, his body almost touching mine, forming a possessive stance. He lowered his head slightly, his nose almost touching my forehead, and said softly in an extremely ambiguous tone, "This necklace suits you very well. I'll buy one for you next time." His warm breath brushed against my skin, carrying a faint scent of aftershave. My heart skipped a beat, and my cheeks flushed uncontrollably. I could feel Ethan and Chloe's shocked gazes on me. Noah seemed very satisfied with the effect. He raised his head, his gaze sweeping over Ethan, whose face was ashen, and Chloe, who looked astonished. The corner of his mouth curled into a meaningful smile. "Sorry to interrupt your pleasant time. We have something to do, so we'll take our leave first." After speaking, he naturally took my hand, turned around, and led me away, never looking at Ethan again from beginning to end. His hand was warm and strong, tightly enveloping mine, conveying an unquestionable sense of protection and declaration. After walking some distance and confirming that Ethan and the others were out of sight, Noah released my hand, but the mischievous smile on his face hadn't faded. "About just now," I began, feeling a little awkward. "I was just helping you fend off some unnecessary trouble." Noah looked at me, his eyes serious. "I don't want to see anyone make you unhappy, Ava." My heart warmed, and as I looked into his sincere eyes, the ripple caused by running into Ethan earlier completely subsided. "Thank you, Noah. You re-welcome." He smiled. "Let's go. Let's continue picking out a gift for my lovely sister." After that chance encounter at the mall, Noah's pursuit became more obvious and ardent. He was no longer satisfied with just sending flowers and going on dates. One morning, I came to the office as usual, ready to start the day's work. When I habitually looked out the window, I was stunned by the sight before me. The huge floor-to-ceiling window of the office building across the street, where Noah's office is located, is actually covered with countless pink sticky notes. The sticky notes form a huge pattern, a somewhat crooked but unmistakably doodle of my quirky owl sleeping cap. The sunlight shines through the pink sticky notes, dyeing the window opposite with a dreamy color, like a huge wall built with girlish hearts. My heart is pounding so hard it feels like it's about to jump out of my chest. Colleagues around me also noticed this spectacular sight, and gathered around the window, exclaiming and discussing, "Oh my God, who did this? It's so romantic. It's definitely the person who sent roses to Ava. How many sticky notes did this take? That's so thoughtful. Look, isn't that Noah Miller, the project director from Innovatech?" I looked in the direction my colleague was pointing, and I saw Noah standing in front of the pink rose wall, holding his phone, seemingly calling me. The next second, my phone actually rang. I walked to a quiet corner, answered the phone, my voice still trembling a little. Noah, do you like it? His voice, laced with laughter, came from the other end of the phone. Now you know. The one who saw you wearing that cute hat that night was me. I was momentarily speechless, both annoyed and amused, and a kind of indescribable emotion spread through my heart. Doing this, won't the people in your company have objections? They'll only envy me for having a girl worth doing this for. Noah's tone carried a hint of triumph. Besides, that hat is really cute, Ava, just like this graffiti. Looking at the childish yet heartfelt graffiti across from me, I could almost see Noah carefully sticking each sticky note, and the softest part of my heart was touched. Noah, Ava, his voice became gentle and solemn. I'm not playing around, I'm serious. Give me a chance, okay? My defenses completely crumbled at this moment. Facing the pink wall, I softly said, okay. Noah's relieved chuckle came from the other end of the phone, as if he had obtained the most precious treasure in the world. Just as my relationship with Noah was advancing by leaps and bounds, and I was immersed in a kind of cautious sweetness, a shocking storm broke out on Ethan's side. That day was a weekend, and I had originally planned to go to an art exhibition with Noah, but before I left, I received an extremely anxious call from my mother. Her voice was trembling on the phone, and she told me to go home immediately, saying that something big had happened. My heart tightened, and I thought something had happened at home. I quickly explained to Noah and hurried back to my parents' house. As soon as I entered the door, I was stunned by the scene before me. The living room was a mess. A vase was shattered on the floor, and the sofa cushions were askew. My father's face was livid, his chest was heaving, and he had a wound on his forehead. My mother was constantly wiping away her tears, and Ethan was sprawled on the ground in a disheveled state, with blood on the corner of his mouth and a clear handprint on his face. His hair was messy, and his suit was wrinkled. His parents, who were my former in-laws, were also sitting on the sofa, their faces extremely ugly. Dad, Mom, what happened here? I asked in a trembling voice. My mother saw me and burst into tears even more, grabbing my hand and saying, Ava, tell Mom the truth. You and Ethan, were you two already? What exactly is going on? I pressed. My father slammed the coffee table and roared, ask this beast. He pointed at Ethan on the ground. Your mother and I went shopping today and happened to see him and that vixen being all lovey-dovey. I went up to reason with him, and he actually protected that woman. My heart sank, and I roughly guessed what had happened. Dad, don't be angry. It's not worth getting sick over someone like that. I quickly comforted my father. I'm not angry? How can I not be angry? My father was trembling with anger. I treated him like my own son. And this is how he treats you? He dared to hug other women in front of us. My dear in-laws, please calm down. Ethan's father, Mr. Sterling, said with a stern face, this matter is Ethan's fault. We will definitely give you an explanation. Explanation? What kind of explanation? My father glared at Ethan. It's light punishment to hit him. If your mother hadn't stopped me, I would have broken his legs today. It seems Dad didn't hold back just now. Looking at Ethan's disheveled appearance, I didn't feel a shred of sympathy, only as expected, calmness. Just then, a sharp female voice suddenly rang out. What right do you have to hit people? What right do you have to hit my husband? I followed the sound and saw a woman dressed flamboyantly and with delicate makeup rushing in from outside the door. It was Chloe, whom I had seen at the mall that day. She went straight to Ethan's side, tenderly examined his injuries, and then raised her head, glaring angrily at my parents. Husband? My mother was stunned, looking at Chloe in disbelief, then at Ethan. All eyes were focused on Chloe's husband, which she blurted out. Chloe seemed to realize she had let something slip, but then she straightened her back and looked at us provocatively. What? Is there a problem? Ethan and I registered our marriage abroad a long time ago. We are a legal couple. What? My parents exclaimed simultaneously, their faces turning pale. Married abroad? Ethan's mother, Mrs. Sterling, also stood up abruptly, her voice sharp. Ethan, what is going on? When did you get married to her? Ethan's face was as pale as paper, his eyes darting around, avoiding eye contact with anyone. Chloe, however, seemed to have found a backer, holding Ethan's arm even more triumphantly, glancing at me with a harsh tone. Some people are just his ex-wife in name only. They should have recognized reality long ago. Ex-wife? These two words were like a thunderclap in my parents' ears. They looked at me in shock, their eyes filled with disbelief and hurt. Ava, is what she said true? My mother's voice trembled. With a sob. You and Ethan are divorced? I knew I couldn't hide it anymore. Facing my parents' shocked and hurt expressions, as well as the probing gaze of Ethan's parents, I took a deep breath and said calmly, yes, Dad, Mom, Ethan and I agreed to divorce shortly after the wedding. What? My mother's eyes went dark, and she almost fainted, but luckily my father caught her. Why, Ava, such a big thing, why didn't you tell us? Father looked at me heartbrokenly, his eyes full of disappointment. I'm sorry, Dad, Mom. I lowered my head, my voice a little choked. When we divorced, Ethan said his father was not in good health and couldn't take the shock, and considering the feelings of both families, he hoped to keep it a secret for half a year. I thought, since we had already decided to separate, I would cooperate with him to finish this last act, so as not to embarrass everyone. Acting? What an act! Father trembled with anger, pointing at Ethan. Mr. Sterling, Mrs. Sterling, this is your good son. Not only did he deceive my daughter's feelings, but he also made fools of all of us. Ethan's parents' faces were ashen, and their eyes were full of disappointment and anger as they looked at their son. Mrs. Sterling turned to Chloe and asked sternly, you said you got married abroad? When? Where? Chloe shrank her neck, intimidated by her sharp aura, but still stubbornly said, just last month, registered in Las Vegas. Las Vegas? Mr. Sterling sneered, his eyes sharp as knives. How come I don't know when my son went to Las Vegas? Ethan's face turned even paler, his lips trembling, as if he wanted to say something, but Chloe pinched his arm hard. Of course he /s been there. Chloe tried to appear calm. We went together, for our honeymoon. Is that so? Mr. Sterling took out his phone and quickly dialed a number. Hello, check Ethan /s entry and exit records for last month, and his credit card spending records. Immediately, Ethan completely panicked, broke free from Chloe /s hand, and lunged towards his father. Dad, let me explain. It /s not like that. Not like what? Mr. Sterling hung up the phone, looking at him with icy eyes. Is it that she didn't go to Las Vegas with you at all, or that you never got married at all? Just then, Mr. Sterling's phone rang. He answered it, listened for a few sentences, and his face became even gloomier. After hanging up, he looked at Ethan and Chloe, his eyes full of disgust and contempt. Ethan, you have truly disappointed me. Mr. Sterling's voice was low and authoritative. This woman, Chloe, is nothing but a professional swindler. She has a fraud gang behind her, specializing in targeting foolish rich people like you. What? Ethan and Chloe exclaimed simultaneously. Impossible, Chloe screamed. You're lying. We truly love each other. Truly love each other? Mrs. Sterling sneered. Does truly loving each other mean swindling all the liquid funds from Ethan's investment company? Does truly loving each other mean secretly transferring the property and jewelry he gave you? Ethan, you fool. You've been completely fooled by this woman, and you still treat her like a treasure. Ethan was struck by lightning, collapsed on the ground, and muttered to himself, no, impossible. Chloe wouldn't deceive me. Wouldn't deceive you? Mr. Sterling slammed a recently faxed document in front of Ethan. This is the bank statement. Take a look for yourself. The money you invested in that so-called high-return project has long been transferred to an overseas account. The project was a scam from beginning to end. Ethan picked up the file with trembling hands, his face turning from white to green and finally ashen as he looked at the shocking numbers on it. He suddenly looked up at Chloe, his eyes filled with disbelief and despair. You really deceived me? Chloe's face also turned pale, her eyes panicked as she tried to quibble. No, it's not like that. Ethan, let me explain. Enough, Mr. Sterling interrupted her sternly. I've already called the police, and they will be here soon to invite you to cooperate with the investigation. Chloe's legs went weak with fright, and she collapsed to the ground. Mr. Sterling stopped looking at the two distraught people and turned to my parents, with deep apology on his face. My dear in-laws, I'm sorry. It's my failure as a parent that has caused you and Ava so much grievance. The Sterling family will definitely give you a satisfactory explanation for this. He then turned to Ethan, his eyes as cold and hard as iron. From today onwards, you are no longer the heir to the Sterling Group. All positions in the company are revoked. Your credit cards and accounts are all frozen. I give you freedom, Ethan, to freely pursue your true love. After saying that, he didn't look at his distraught son again, And after apologizing to my parents again with his wife, who also had a livid face, he turned and left. Only my family of 3, and Ethan and Chloe, who were paralyzed on the ground, were left in the living room. An absurd and depressing atmosphere filled the air. Looking at Ethan's pathetic state of being drained of both wealth and affection, and abandoned by everyone, I felt no ripple in my heart. All of this was his own fault. Ethan's farce ended in an extremely melodramatic and embarrassing way. Chloe and her scam gang were quickly brought under police control, awaiting the punishment of the law. As for Ethan, he completely became a discarded pawn abandoned by his family, losing his wealth, status, and even a place to live. After this turmoil, my life completely returned to peace, or rather, entered a brand new stage. My parents learned the truth, and although they were initially shocked and heartbroken, after understanding the whole story, especially after seeing Ethan's tragic ending, they gradually let go. They expressed understanding about me hiding the divorce, and were more relieved that I cut my losses in time and got rid of that horrible person. My relationship with Noah, on the other hand, became more stable and deeper after experiencing these twists and turns. He did not back down because of the melodramatic things in my family, but instead stood by me more firmly, giving me a lot of support and comfort. He would pick me up from work almost every day, sometimes with a bento box he made himself, and sometimes he would take me to discover hidden gem restaurants in the city. On weekends, we would go to art exhibitions, concerts, or just take a walk in the park near my apartment. He is a great cook and often comes to my apartment to prepare a sumptuous dinner for me. That evening, Noah was cooking at my house again. An enticing aroma wafted from the kitchen, and I was sitting on the sofa in the living room, talking to my mother on the phone. "Yes, Mom, I'm fine, and work is going well." "That's good." My mother paused on the other end, her tone tentative. "By the way, Ava, your Aunt Wang said she has a nephew who is very nice, just returned from abroad, and would like to introduce him to you." I get a headache just hearing about blind dates, and quickly interrupted. "Mom, no need, I'm doing fine now. No rush." "Why aren't you in a rush? You're all ready." My mother stopped halfway through her sentence, seeming to realize something, and her tone became a little excited. "Ava, tell Mom the truth. Do you have someone you like?" I subconsciously glanced at the busy figure in the kitchen, and the corners of my mouth couldn't help but turn up. Noah happened to be carrying a plate of freshly pan-fried cod and walked out. Hearing the content of my phone call, his footsteps paused, and he glanced at me with a resentful look, carrying a clear hint of jealousy. I was amused by him and said vaguely into the phone, I guess so, Mom. I'll tell you if anything happens, so don't worry about it." After hanging up the phone, Noah put the dishes on the table, walked over, gently wrapped his arms around my waist from behind, rested his chin on the top of my head, and said in a muffled voice, "Blind date? Aunt Wang's nephew?" I turned around and pinched his cheek. "Someone's jealousy is acting up again?" "Humph." He snorted softly, pretending to be dissatisfied, but the smile in his eyes couldn't be hidden. "Next time Mom mentions it again, just say you have a boyfriend named Noah Miller, who is handsome, can cook, and is good to you." "Got it, Chef Noah." I smiled, stood on tiptoe, and gently placed a kiss on his lips. Just as we were enjoying our cozy time together, an uninvited guest appeared again. That afternoon, I was in the office discussing a plan with my colleagues when the receptionist called and said that Ethan was waiting for me in the lobby downstairs and specifically asked to see me. I frowned. What was he doing here? Since the last incident, he had disappeared as if he had evaporated from the face of the earth. I thought he had completely disappeared from my world. "Tell him I'm not available." I refused directly. However, just a few minutes later, the front desk called again, sounding somewhat embarrassed. "Sister Ava, Mr. Ethan refuses to leave. He says he must see you, or he will just keep waiting." I felt a little annoyed. This guy, doesn't he think he's humiliated himself enough? Just as I was hesitating whether to go downstairs and send him away, my phone rang. It was Noah. "Ava, I'm downstairs at your company. What do you want to eat tonight?" My heart stirred, and I said, "Come up first. I have a little trouble that needs your help to deal with." "Oh?" Noah's tone carried a hint of curiosity. "Coming right up." I went to the lobby downstairs and, sure enough, saw Ethan waiting there. He looked even more haggard and down on his luck than last time, dressed in cheap casual clothes, unshaven, with dull eyes, completely lacking his former heroic spirit. Seeing me come down, his eyes lit up, and he hurried to meet me. Ava, what is it? I said in a cold tone, deliberately keeping my distance from him. Ava, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong, he said urgently, trying to grab my hand, but I avoided it. Can you give me another chance? Let's start over. I swear I will treat you well in the future. I couldn't believe my ears. He actually had the nerve to say something like that. Ethan, I looked at him with cold eyes. We are over, completely over. Please don't bother me again in the future. No, Ava, listen to me. Just then, the elevator doors opened, and Noah walked out. He immediately saw Ethan and me entangled, and his brow furrowed instantly. He strode to my side, naturally put his arm around me, and looked at Ethan with scrutiny and displeasure. Sir, is there anything you need from my girlfriend? Noah's voice wasn't loud, but it carried an undeniable aura of authority. Girlfriend? Ethan was stunned, looking incredulously at Noah's hand around my waist, then at my calm, acquiescent expression, his face turning pale instantly. Yes, boyfriend, Noah emphasized, tightening his arm and holding me even closer. Ava is my girlfriend now, and I don't want to see anyone harassing her. If you don't have anything important, please leave. Ethan was stunned by Noah's powerful aura and undisguised possessiveness. He opened his mouth, but couldn't say a word. He looked at Noah and me being so intimate, his eyes filled with jealousy, regret, and unwillingness. Finally, as if all his strength had been drained, he turned around in a disheveled manner and staggered away. Looking at Ethan's lonely figure, I felt nothing. I just felt that this person had finally completely left my life. I looked up at Noah, who was looking down at me, with a hint of lingering jealousy in his eyes. Let's go. Let's go home for dinner, Chef Noah. I stood on tiptoe and kissed him on the cheek, trying to appease him. Noah's expression finally softened. The corners of his mouth turned up into a smile again, and he took my hand, and we walked out of the company gate together. Noah was still a little sullen on the way home. Still angry? I asked with a smile. No, he said, but his slightly pouting lips betrayed his true feelings. I just think about how that bastard hurt you like that. And I know what he cares about. The last time my parents came to my house for dinner, they inadvertently mentioned that I had once rushed to deliver an important document that Ethan had left at home, and accidentally fell on the road, hit my head, and had several stitches. Noah's face looked very bad when he heard it. It's all in the past, Noah. I took his hand and said seriously, I am very good now, and I have completely let go. Meeting you is the luckiest thing in my life. Noah stopped and turned to look at me, his eyes deep and gentle. Me too, Ava. Meeting you makes me feel that all those years of searching and waiting were worth it. He gently stroked the faded scar on my forehead, his eyes filled with tenderness. I promise, I will never let anyone hurt you again. My heart was enveloped in a great wave of warmth. I knew that this time, I had truly found my happiness. Not long after, my mother called again, this time directly asking about Noah's situation. I introduced Noah to her, and my mother chatted with Noah on the phone for a few words, and was obviously very satisfied with him, repeatedly saying good things and telling me to cherish him. Everything is developing in a positive direction. Ethan's appearance was just a trivial episode that, on the contrary, made us cherish each other even more. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, it's winter. My feelings for Noah have also matured naturally, and we've started planning our future. One snowy evening, Noah was at my house, carefully preparing a romantic proposal. There was no grand display, only warm candlelight, moving music, and the sincere glimmer in his eyes as he knelt on one knee. Ava Chen, will you marry me? With tears in my eyes, I nodded vigorously. I do. Our wedding was set in winter, on a sunny weekend. Unlike the last wedding filled with lies and deals, this time, every detail was filled with love and sincerity. In the church, the blessings of relatives and friends were heartfelt. When I wore my white wedding dress, took my father's arm, and walked towards Noah, my heart was filled with unprecedented happiness and certainty. We exchanged rings and kissed deeply. This time, his lips were warm and filled with love. After the wedding, we planned to go to a remote northern town for our honeymoon, to see the aurora, to ski, and to enjoy our time alone together. As for Ethan, news of him only surfaced occasionally through others, becoming background information in our lives. It is said that he didn't give up and actually went abroad to find Chloe to demand an explanation. He also cooperated with the local police to provide more clues about the fraud gang. Eventually, Chloe and her accomplices were brought to justice and received their due punishment. However, Ethan himself didn't fare well either. It is said that during the pursuit, he had a conflict with someone and accidentally fell down the stairs, resulting in a severe fracture in his leg. Doctors say that it may affect his ability to walk normally in the future. When I heard this news, I was with Noah, choosing ski equipment for our honeymoon trip. I just calmly said oh, without any extra emotions. What happened to his life was no longer relevant to me. I looked up and saw Noah gently adjusting my scarf beside me. He smiled at me, his eyes full of love. The sunlight streamed through the shop's glass windows, shining on us, warm and bright. I knew that my new life had just begun, and this time, I will walk hand in hand with the right person, firmly towards the future.